not going to answer that whole objection here, but I want to show how the objection itself does not get the person where they want to go. And the ironic thing is that proving that there is evil in the world is key to defeating the objection. Because when somebody says this to me now, they raise this thing, so I say, so you believe in evil then? Well, of course I do. I would raise the objection if I didn't believe in evil. Well, if you believe in evil, then you can't reject the existence of God. Why not? Well, there's actually two reasons. First of all, if you believe in evil, then you're not a relativist. Is this right? In other words, you're not the kind of person that would say, well, you know, morality is just an individual thing. It's up to you or up to you. But you wouldn't be a postmodernist who says that morality is a cultural construct. It's just part of our own imagination. Because if you think that morals are relative, that morality is something individual people make up for themselves, or maybe individual groups make up for themselves, then the objection simply vaporizes. Because the objection requires that there be actual, objective evil existing in the world, even to raise the objection in the first place. Imagine if somebody came up to you and said, gee, I wish the government would do something about the problem of the elephants. And you say, what problem of the elephants? And they say, the elephants in my own imagination. You say, well, if the elephants are in your imagination, I don't know what the government's going to be able to do about it. By parallel, the relativist says there's a problem of evil, but evil is just a function of his own imagination. And if evil is just a function of his own imagination and there's not objective evil out there, then there's no complaint. So if evil is real, then relativism is false. If there is a real problem of evil, if Katrina was an evil event, if what happens when people kill and maim and torture are evil things, if oppression of weak people or groups is evil, if any of those things that we react to in an emotional, moral fashion are what we think they are, either evil or virtuous, then relativism is false. So in order to raise the question, you have to abandon your relativism, and relativism is a part of the postmodern thinking of the culture. So the first thing we learn from the problem is that relativism is false, so you must believe in evil. So that removes a lot of people. But the second thing is even more telling. Because when they say, yes, they do believe in evil, then I ask, what do they mean by evil? Now, at this point, people characteristically give examples. Well, I mean murder, rape, torture, something like that. And then I say, I didn't ask you to give me examples of evil. I want to know what evil is that you would cite those things as examples of it. Why would you say rape and murder are evil and not good? You must have some concept of what evil means in order to pick out examples of that. And it turns out, when people say, well, those are evil because they're not the way things are supposed to be. Okay, so let me give you an illustration, because at this point it gets a little dicey, and this is a tricky concept. Here's the illustration. How many people are bowlers here? Any bowler? Do Canadians bowl? Yeah, I got some bowlers, all right. In Chicago, everybody bowls. You know, Californians don't like to admit it, you know. Okay, here's my question. How do you know the difference between a good bowler and a bad bowler? The score. It has nothing to do with your form or the way you throw the ball or anything at all. It has to do with how many pins you knock down. So good bowlers and bad bowlers are distinguished by a score. The higher the score, the better the bowler, right? And bowling has an intrinsic maxima. What's the perfect score in bowling? 300. All the pins down in 10 frames plus 2. So you get 300, that's perfect. So in order to measure anybody here as to whether they are, and watch the words, good or bad regarding bowling, we can only know what category they're in by comparing them to a standard that measures goodness or badness. So when people say that rape, murder, torture, and that kind of stuff are bad or evil, it's because somehow in their mind they already have an awareness of a scoring system that allows them to assess these behaviors as falling short, or maybe other behaviors, virtues, as being high on the goodness scale. And keep in mind that this scale that makes sense of good or bad to begin with has got to be a transcendent scale. It's not something you make up. That's relativism, and you're back to elephants in your imagination again. No, this has got to be something that stands outside of us. So here's my question. If there is a problem of evil, it's only because evil is real. And evil can only be real as a characterization of actions or events that fall short somehow from a standard, a transcendent standard of moral perfection. A scoring system of sorts. So here's my question. Where does the scoring system come from? Where does the scoring system that allows you to identify evil in the first place, where does that come from? Now this is called the grounding question in philosophy, but it's a question that's common sensible if you think about it. It really needs to be answered. Now, by the way, I know the standard response. The standard response is to say evolution created this desire inside of us. But before you go in that direction, and I can't talk a lot about it, I don't have time, I just want to note that the evolutionary answer, whether it's biological evolution you're invoking here, or a cultural evolution, that this is what we've decided to do as right and wrong because this helps us survive better, those are both relativistic answers. Those are answers in which you talk about moral systems that are made up for our benefit at the moment. You are not talking about transcendent moral issues. And if you opt that way, then the problem of evil disappears. So the evolutionary option does not help you here. If there is real objective morality, there must be a real objective standard. And without objective morality, there's no problem of evil. The long and short of it is this. The problem of evil turns out to be not only a very good argument against the relativism that many people take refuge in to avoid taking religious claims seriously, it also turns out to be not one of the best arguments against the existence of God, but one of the best arguments for the existence of God, because it's going to be very, very difficult to explain the existence of an objective standard of moral obligations without pointing to the objective existence of the moral law giver to whom we are obligated.